wait. And baby, I'm TFC till I die.
Hello and welcome back to Toronto Till I Die, the Toronto FC fan show. I'm Mike Newell, and what more is there to say? Another loss, and TFC are out of the playoffs, but we will try to find some words on today's show. This week, we'll briefly react to Toronto FC's 3-0 loss to NYCFC. We'll just talk about where this club goes from here. 3 seasons in a row eliminated from the playoffs, most likely on its way to a wooden spoon again. What is there to look forward to in terms of this TFC squad? And of course, we will get to the burning question presented by NextDoor. Lots to dig into with my co-host Michael Singh and Jeffrey P. Nesker. Gents, normally I ask you, how was your weekend? How did you enjoy the game? I mean, we'll get to the game in a second. How generally were you as, your weekends non-TFC wise? How did that go?
Yeah. Okay. Got to see a concert last night. Had a good time.
Which concert?
Yeah. Went to see Brian Jonestown Massacre at the concert hall.
Oh.
You have no idea what I just said, but yeah.
No idea. You're talking gibberish.
No worries.
You're making words up.
Well, I know the reference, but I don't know the band.
Yeah.
I know the hall.
There you go. 1 out of 2 ain't bad.
Yeah, there you go.
I was puppy sitting for most of the weekend. Have you guys ever done that? You have a dog, right, Mike?
Yeah, I've puppy sit other people's dogs before.
No, okay. You're just
Cat
business
guy.
on the side, I guess you're running, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, friends are out of town. They just bring their dog over and we'll just hang out for a couple hours or a night. That's fine.
But
is this the first time for you? Is this the first time you've puppy sat?
Well, I had a dog in university. Like when my roommate had the dog, but staying at home a lot, I got to take care of it and whatnot. This is the first time in a while, and it was my brother's dog, and left me the dog for the week. So virtually, because it's a puppy, you can't go anywhere or do anything. Really, you can't really leave the house for very long. But I'm not gonna lie, man. She got picked up yesterday. I'm sad. I'm gonna have to go out and get a puppy.
You're
now.
devastated. Yeah.
I was about to say, you're like, oh, I got rid of it. Oh God.
No. The opposite effect. He
man.
needs snuggles.
You got puppy fever now. You need it.
Okay,
so I will say this.
Desperate need of snuggles.
Yeah, be careful though, because puppy fever can lead you down a road where you make some decisions you're not ready for with a puppy, right? Like you said,
100%.
puppies, like that was a week. You got a taste. Like puppies all the time, they can be a nightmare.
Commitment. It's a commitment.
It is a serious commitment. It is a child, basically. It's a furry 4-legged child, basically.
I want a puppy.
All right.
Anyways, I'm also a softball champion.
Hey, I saw
Congratulations.
Blue Jays.
Hey.
Shout out to the Blue Jays. 2023 ORCSLCS champions.
That's a mouthful.
B division.
Say that 3 times fast.
Hey,
Man,
do you get promoted or something? Like this is a soccer podcast.
Yeah.
So if you're in B division, do you get promoted or something?
I hope
Everybody
not.
gets Messi jerseys?
I don't think I like winning. I don't think we can hang in any division.
Then you're just like Norwich. Okay. Sorry for all the Norwich fans out there. I was sick this weekend. I didn't do jack. I sat on my couch, man cold it the whole weekend. Basically, that's it.
Those are good weekends, man. What did you binge? Did you have a favorite show that you just attacked? Or,
no, well, Saturday was mainly football. So I watched.
Yeah, of course.
I watched a lot of. I actually watched a lot of Bundesliga on Saturday. I just put on a game and just kept going. And then I watched the Jays blow it in the bottom of the 9th on Saturday, which sucked. But it was okay. They won 2 out of 3.
Good weekend for the Jays.
It was a good weekend. Don't get me wrong. Very good weekend for the Jays. And then I was going to watch. Had a great time at the Argos game. Okay, fair enough.
Makes one of us.
Yeah, maybe. And then I was going to watch a TFC game Saturday night, and then Terry Dunfield with the wrench in the boiler room. Made sure they didn't play
What is this
Saturday. Maybe
Clue?
they should have played
Professor
Saturday.
Dunfield in the library with the candlestick? Like, what's going on?
Maybe they should have played the game Saturday night. Who knows? Because Sunday afternoon did not get better.
Not
So
really.
yeah. I mean, sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, messed up my whole day.
Yeah.
I planned on seeing them lose on Saturday and then having Sunday as like a aperitif, but instead, a digestif. But instead, I had to, waylay all of that negative energy into Sunday, and then of course was rewarded for my efforts because it sucked. And I guess the goal here is to just not let it ruin your day anymore. It's funny, the vocal minority were saying the same thing. I think it was Mark Hinckley's like, you just got to have diminished expectations now. You just got to go in and enjoy the environment and the beer and, maybe seeing a kit you like and then go home and get on with your life kind of thing.
Well, man, I didn't bother Sunday. Like I was gonna watch it. I was gonna watch it, and then I was having a great day. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't want this to kill my vibe, man. I was feeling a little bit better. Wife and I were having a great time. We were just laughing and playing board games and stuff. And at this point, it was like 1:30. I'm like, is there a point? And then I checked Twitter, and they were already down. And it's like, I know how this script goes. I already know how this movie ends.
Man, we should have had a meeting beforehand because I would have done the same thing, man. Board game sounds delightful. What I did on Sunday.
Well, that's why I had Clue.
The complete opposite of that. Clue. Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah. But nonetheless, this is the Toronto FC podcast. You do expect us to talk about TFC and the games they play. And Sunday was not a fun one. Honestly, the club kind of owes some people who made the trip out to New York a bit of an apology because they had to spend an extra day. It was extra crappy weather along the eastern coast of the U.S., and then they had to sit around and watch that for 90 minutes, a 3-0 loss.
Massive respect to the NYCFC fans that stayed in their assigned seating at the rescheduled game. Like there was nobody there, and there were still people up in the 30th row. just like being all etiquette and you got in a world gone mad. You need to appreciate that kind of adherence.
They were just trying to stay away from the howling rain, man. That's what they're doing.
Do not ruin this for me, Mike. I know that there were extenuating circumstances, but I choose to see it as an ethics lesson, and I'd like to share that with everybody else. But
fair enough.
I felt like we were back in COVID times, man, when I saw that game at first.
It really did. Yeah, it's super.
Everyone's isolating.
Yeah.
So for those who are unaware, NYCFC were playing, or right now, I think for the next little stretch, playing their home games at Red Bull Arena because Yankee Stadium is now exclusively for the Yankees until the Yankee season's done, which is in like a week because they're not.
Because the Yankees. And they're on the road, I think, too.
Yeah, they're on the. I think they're on the road for the rest. Well, they have the Jays this weekend. I don't know if they go home after this, but I think they might be on the road for the rest of the time. But nonetheless,
baseball!
But they were playing at Red Bull Arena, and look, it was COVID times, but TFC were not in COVID times form in a 3-0 loss. I mean, guys, we've talked about this team and all the deficiencies and the things that tend to go wrong. I mean, how
did any of you had the sewer exploding in Harrison on your bingo card? Because that's a new one. That's a new wrinkle. And I actually asked friend of the show, Martin Bailey, who amazingly came up with receipts in nanoseconds. It was mind-boggling. But there are a history of games that have been abandoned on account of weather. Never one that was because a sewer pipe burst. And if you believe the rumors, Harrison is already notorious for smelling bad. So credits them for not playing with double negative bad smells with a sewer pipe bursting as well, because that would have been pretty hellish. But yeah, I didn't have
just
that
called
on my
it off
card.
anyway, right? Like just head on the plane, go home, boys. Like because it really did feel like a kind of, well, we're here an extra day in New York. Let's kind of phone it in. Let's go through the motions of a soccer game. And I mean, again, like I said, I kind of live vicariously through other people's tweets through this because I didn't want to spoil my vibe, to be perfectly honest. And pretty much it fit the script of what I thought it was going to be. Mikey, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that, but like it just felt like one of those games where it just, again, going through the motions.
Jeff, you go first. I want to hear your thoughts.
Sure. I mean, listen, this team wilts when they concede first, and they conceded first within a minute, 90 seconds at best. Game was over before it started, really. I mean, let's be honest. Beyond that, coming off the back of the Inter Miami tie, where we, got worked by the B team essentially. Although the way that club has improved unilaterally by the force multipliers that are the Messi and friends threesome, I can't say that they're the B team and feel honest about it at this juncture. But it just coming off the back of that, just getting worked by, for lack of a better word, Miami's, B team, the non-Messis, and then to do that, it's. I think the thesis of this show is, what can we say, right? Like, what can you say really? Like, they're about that.
7-0 over 2 games. That's bad against 2 teams that are non-playoff teams currently.
I think Miami's a playoff team in all but name at this point.
Right now, yes, currently that's maybe.
Mm-hmm. And I do think NYCFC off the back of this might end up making a run for the wild card spot as well. Remember when we talked about how easy it was going to be to get into the playoffs this season with the new expanded format? Remember that? Remember, Barry's?
Yeah.
It's pathetic. It's pathetic watching this team go out there and not even be in it, really, for most of the match. I mean, okay, sure, they get a decent response after conceding 2 minutes in, but you never really felt like this team was going to push forward and propel and have the will and the effort and the desire to go out and get 3 points. They're out there for a casual run in the park, and it shows. We talk a lot about, club culture here on this show, and Bill Manning said to a few reporters that the club culture there at Toronto FC is broken, and that culture bleeds out onto the field, bleeds out onto the pitch, and you see it, as you've illustrated, Jeff, as Mike, you've talked about in the past. This team is so fragile and so soft and so just broken in so many different ways. You're right. Something goes wrong and immediately they give up, even when they're pressing, and you start to see 3, 4, 5 bodies go forward, one pass through the press and they give up. They make it so easy on their opposition to play through them, play around them. And, I feel bad at times for that back line, because a lot of the focus is on the back line when goals happen or big opportunities happen, but it's 1 through 11 on this team. And like, not to single anyone out, but God dang it, man. If I have to go turn on my TV and have to watch CJ Sapong start another game for Toronto FC, I'll turn it off, man. It's like, it's just because what's the point at this point in the season? He's come in. Yeah. Okay, I get why they tried to make the ad. Yeah, exactly. He didn't bring exactly what they thought he would bring. Had a great start, 1 goal in his first game, hasn't scored since, but he's really offering not really much up top for this team. And then you think about, okay, what's kind of the objective here down the stretch? Is it to kind of just hold on and survive, or is it, give some younger players some minutes? So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, why are we moving Kerr out of the position which he's excelled at the last couple of games for Toronto FC? Why are we moving Kerr out of that position? And B, like, you look at potential options you can throw out there. I mean, Shaquille Marcheretti, sure, like, we say what you want about Shaquille and how he maybe hasn't lived up to expectations, but there's minutes right there in front of him, and instead it goes to CJ Sapong. Maybe even like TFC2 guy, Jesus Batiste, or I don't know if they have any calls left for him, or even like Rashawn Walks. There are guys that are the minutes could actually be valuable for. CJ Sapong is
Yep,
going to be gone at the end of the season, right? They're not bringing
absolutely.
CJ Sapong back, and he's a good person by all accounts, and I have nothing personally against him, but like I just don't understand Terry Dunfield's decision there to include Sapong in the 11. Um, I mean,
Especially deputizing for Insigne on the wing. Like what the hell? What the hell?
yeah. I mean, they tweaked up their formation a little bit, but there's a lot of decent performances, but I'm surprised they've managed to put in the decent performances at like Alonso Coelho or DeAndre Kerr or Kobe Franklin. I'm actually surprised that these guys have been able to continuously take steps forward because they're in an environment where it's dreary, it's taxing, it takes a toll on a lot of players. And as I guess continue this long rant, I think about guys like
Mm.
Jonathan Osorio and a guy like Michael Bradley, and I'm like, do you really still want to come back after going through this season? Like, okay, last season was really bad, right? But you kind of understood it was going to be bad. The year before,
Yep.
again, writing was sort of on the wall, not the right coach. There's a lot of
Pandemic.
excuses.
Yeah.
There's a lot of excuses, right? This season, there's expectations were never higher. And for Jonathan Osorio to have to endure that, for Michael Bradley to have to endure that, like, I'd have a hard time for Sean Johnson even to have to endure that. I have a hard time seeing guys like that really be motivated and up to it come next training camp. There's got to be some of this that carries over, and that's the danger
Mm-hmm.
of a season like this.
Yeah, and this is the thing that really irks me and bothers me. You mentioned three players; they're all young players, sort of progressing against the mean, right? Progressing against the odds in terms of how this team has been playing, and a lot of this attitude that you talk about, this broken culture that has been discussed on this show, on other shows, in articles by management itself, by some of the players, comes from the senior level. It comes from the senior players, and
Yep.
that is a problem. And the thing I tweeted out the other day or yesterday, and the thing that really irks me is pride. Right, like I know well, that word comes out a lot in pro sports, and it's probably overused in a lot of ways. But I don't think it is in this situation. I really think that there is a lack of pride and in some ways a lack of professionalism.
Mhm.
And I really hesitate to say that because I know these guys aren't going out to try to fail intentionally, right? I know that. But from what a fan gets to see on a game by game basis, you do not see a pride in the badge right now, or very little of it. I don't want to say everybody, but it's you see very little of it. You see, and I'm not talking about like flying in the tackles and being reckless and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about trying to be good at the basics, right? And I just don't see that. As you said, Mike and Jeff, you've illustrated both very eloquently in sort of the first part of the show, that this team just has no backbone. And when you have no pride, you have no backbone. And when you have no backbone, really, it screams unprofessional. And
Mm-hmm.
I am going to call it unprofessional because
Please do.
regardless, the article that came out earlier this year, the things we heard even before that, some of the signings that have been made that's come in and not done, a professional job here at Toronto FC. There's been too much of that. And some of that is on the management, 100%. They sign the players, they do the scouting. That is 100% true. But some of this has to lie on the players, right? Like you
Yep.
do have to point a finger at the players and sort of say, where is your pride? Right? Because I get it. The situation from, maybe your environment is not great. And I get that. But man, like from a player perspective, you go on and you put the cleats on and you put the socks and the jersey on and you go play the game, right? Bob Bradley didn't go play
Mhm.
the game for you, right? Terry Dunfield can't go lace up his boots and play again for you, right? That's you. At a certain point, it's got to be a look in the mirror. And right now, I don't know if any of these players are going to do that, to be perfectly honest, because a lot of them probably know they're on their way out the door. But for the ones who think they're sticking around, I mean, look in the mirror, because it's
So
beyond
much to unpack.
just I mean, like it's just one of those things where fans are looking at you like, why are you here? Like, why are you here? Like, I
Hmm.
mean, you getting paid, I
It's
get
got
that,
to
that's
be
fine.
tougher to faff around to do whatever you were doing for 90 minutes than try to play actual soccer. I mean, that just seems obvious to me. Like it's a waste of everybody's energy to do whatever the hell that was. I didn't mean to cut you off. I already had
No,
a
that's
bunch of
fine.
things.
I don't think you're wrong
Mhm.
in any of that, right? Like, and look, we've railed on the DP, so I'm not going to necessarily go there again.
No,
A
no.
decision needs to be
But I
made
will
on
say, I will.
what you're going to do with them. But
Mhm.
I mean, come on.
Can we
My
talk about
response is
Lorenzo Insigne
Yeah, go
not
ahead.
sure.
being
Can
in
I
the
can I
11?
open it up for
Go ahead.
1 second? I think here's the issue. Having money in MLS is a blessing and a curse because you can attract assassins, but assassins by their very nature don't bleed for the badge, right? And that sort of ties into this idea of luxury players where it's fine to have paid assassins, but they, by virtue of being paid assassins and so-called luxury players, they can't be the guy. And that puts you in a difficult situation here when you're recruiting. And we've made mistakes with assassins. And we got very, very lucky with people like Michael Bradley or Sebastian Giovinco that came and embraced this club like they were born here, like they were from
But I wouldn't
Turin,
call them
which is.
assassins. I think they actually bought into what they were doing, right? I think they
But this will
bought
never be
into the
Napoli
club.
for Lorenzo Insigne. This will never
No, of
be
course not.
Juve
But nobody was
for
expecting it to be
Federico
Juventus for
Bernardeschi.
Sebastian
But I
Giovinco,
think
right?
that at its core, nobody was, but then it kind of was for Seba. I mean, he lives here now, and I think at its core, that's a calculation that we don't factor enough into our recruitment. That obviously, it's not going to be Turin or Napoli for player X or player Y. Is that okay? Will other things sort of counteract that? I just don't even think it's thought about at all. It's like, oh, this bag of money is going. I just think that there's a false equivalency between bleeding for the badge at a kind of genetic level and accepting a bag of money. And I think the sooner that we sort of understand that a little bit better, the maybe the better we'll be at hitting on some of these signings later on.
It's also, I mean, just to play devil's advocate, it's tough to bleed for a badge that at this point is just so, again, just pathetic. It's tough.
But when
It's tough
Michael
to,
Bradley came here, we were pathetic, and he made a decision to bleed for the badge. Right? It's tough, but it's not impossible. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, and that's why
Like,
Michael Bradley is going to go down as the greatest player in Toronto FC history. Maybe not the best, but the most important player in Toronto FC history, right? Because
and
of
look at how we've
what he
treated
came
him,
in
and look at how his exit. Look at how
exactly.
unbelievably awful
So
his
It's a
exit might
the
end up
club has
being.
a history of that.
that's
Mhm.
exactly my point that I was getting to there. It was just that at a certain point, it's not on the players anymore. At a certain point, it's not on the signings anymore. Like, yeah, okay, you can pinpoint certain players like I did about CJ Sapong, but at a certain point when player A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K are not coming in, they're not performing, and the next guy isn't performing, the next guy isn't performing,
Mhm.
something is clearly wrong with the overall club culture here at Toronto FC. Something
Oh,
is
for sure.
clearly wrong. It's something way bigger than what's going on at the training pitch, right?
Mhm.
And I think that again, and as we've called for on the show, that needs to be addressed so quickly and so much more.
So okay, so
Do you want to
then where
answer this
does that?
quickly, Mike? Just
Yeah,
quickly,
go
Mikey
ahead.
Singh.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
question
What's
that
that?
came up from Anthony. Mike saying, "Why are you protecting Bradley and Osorio?" Or do you want me to answer for you?
No, you don't have to answer for me. I
Mhm.
mean, that's fine if you want to think that I'm protecting Bradley and Osorio. I mean, what am
Mhm.
I going to say? Like, Bradley and Osorio have had brutal seasons. Yeah, I think they'd be the first to tell you that. We've also seen Bradley and Osorio be very good in situations where they're set up to be good. And
Mhm.
these situations this season, they haven't been set up so good. And they're also guys who, come on, like they've given everything to this club and then more. They are Toronto FC
They're
through
not
and
even in the
through.
same universe as the people that we're trying to
So
compare them against.
so what I'm
That's my
what I'm
answer.
trying to get at, it's beyond what you I guess see on the pitch with Bradley and Osorio. It's beyond performances with those guys. That's why they get a little bit of a pass because of the resume that they build up and what they've done. Am I proclaiming here that Jonathan Osorio and Michael Bradley are the best players on Toronto FC? No, not even close. But I'm absolutely going to say that they're not the cultural problem here at Toronto FC, which I think is the bigger problem right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
So to me, it's a chicken egg thing. I mean,
so then where does this
sorry.
so Jeff, just a quick question then. Where does this where does the club go from here now in your mind? Like 3 years out of the playoffs, right? New manager starts on Sunday. Okay, so day after their next game. You suspect Herdman's going to have a decent hand in the tactical planning this weekend, but officially he starts on Sunday. Where does this club go in your mind?
Toronto FC broke the mold signing Lorenzo Insigne and Federico Bernardeschi, and unfortunately we're going to break the mold finding a way to extricate ourselves from them. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be a situation where, we're able to get Josie from Sunderland for hugs because, of course, they are unwanted. And as a consequence of their long contracts at TFC, they have absolutely no impetus to move. We can't keep banging this drum together. I mean, we're sort of dancing around an issue. Is the death of culture at TFC lay entirely on their feet? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Without question, absolutely not. I happen to think Soteldo was the beginning of the end in terms of this club losing so much of its power and just bending to the will of arrogant frauds. It's going to be a buyout and it's going to be ugly. But I think
There's no
that
chance.
to answer your question, I know eating $25 million is insanity,
There's no
but
chance.
like I said, it was insanity to pursue him. Do you honestly think you can build a team around those two guys with any coach, with any roster? Because I don't.
Hey,
And I just
I
think
think
we're circling the drain as long as we try.
I think that they would buy him out, or they would buy them out, if you want to say both of them. But they would send them packing as quickly as possible, in my opinion, if they could. That's not realistic. They're not eating that money. MLSC is not eating that money. MLSC wasn't even forking enough money to throw into a third DP this year. They're not going to just swallow.
This is
millions
triage,
and
Mikey.
millions.
I mean, these guys are a pox on the club that we love.
I understand.
I
understand why you're frustrated.
But you can't just be like they're hot. I mean, again, $25 million sucks. But who goes into something without an exit strategy? I mean, we're seeing the ramifications of that now. Every deal is supposed to be successful. 50% or less are. That's why you have exit strategies. That's why you have contract law. That's why you have levers that need to be hit in such cases. I
don't know if anybody could have expected them to be this bad, though.
And I think that that's sort of the answer that I was fishing for. And that's how I opened my column in WTR this week. I said, nobody expected it to be this bad. Like everything that could go wrong went wrong and then had babies. Like, you know what I mean? And then split
exactly.
like cells and just created an environment of utter horridness. It's like essays should be written about how this all went so unbelievably pear-shaped. It would be hilarious if it wasn't us, if it wasn't happening to us, absolutely abjectly hilarious.
I don't think their contracts are immovable. I think there are ways to move them. They got to be creative, whether that be a loan, even if it's just for the year, it's the option to buy at the end of the year. If you have to maybe eat part of the contract to move them, pay some of the salary. I don't think there are ways to get by it.
Mm-hmm.
And
that are going to hurt.
And I think, and we'll get to this in the burning question in a bit, I think that's what TFC are going to have to do this offseason. It's gotten to the point where there's no, I really don't think there's much salvaging this relationship between the club and their two-star Italians. I think what has gone wrong, what has just happened, transpired over these past year and a half with these two Italians is it's a relationship that both ways has been tainted and tainted really poorly. So it's Jason Hernandez's and Bill Manning's job here, I guess, this winter to find that exit
the L.
strategy, Jeff, as you're kind of alluding to. And hey, the job will be to not take the L. The job will be to move them without having to retain anything, without having to eat some salary.
Then we're in a Josie in the last years of his deal situation. We're in an Io Akinola situation. This club needs to learn from their mistakes. When you have something that nobody wants, you're in a position of zero ability to negotiate. Like,
I'm not sure
you know
about
what
that.
I mean?
I'm not sure it's a nobody wants them.
I mean,
I think there was interest in at least Federico Bernardeschi.
Every club would take them at fair market value. The problem is that we're peddling them at an unbelievably inflated salary because we want to recoup our losses. I just think that the sooner we realize that we'll be lucky if we recruit bus fare on these guys,
for sure,
the happier we'll be. You know, you can't have your cake and eat it too. We messed up. This failed. You can't expect to recoup your losses on the way out. You know, that's like asking for your initial stock purchase back after the market's crashed. It doesn't work that way. You have to take the L here.
We didn't think there was going to be any moving Io Akinola, and Jason Hernandez found.
And he may come back.
He may, but at least there was exactly. But that's one of the deals that I'm talking about, where they have to be creative. Maybe it is a loan deal where they send him away for a year, and then you have a year to kind of push that down the table or push that down the line, right? So, like I said, their job this offseason is to get the best deals possible for Federico Bernardeschi and Lorenzo Insigne. And the best deal possible, Jeff. Yeah, and the best deal possible, Jeff, as you're kind of touching on here, might just be eating the money, right? But their jobs
they can't come back.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Their jobs are to get as much as possible, if possible.
Yeah, and look, I get there's a buyout mechanism. They're going to use that in Diamante. Like, you gotta, because he has guaranteed money for next year, right? So
unless you can put him on the IR.
Maybe, or he retires. But I mean, realistically, like he has guaranteed money. He has a guaranteed deal for next year, right?
I'm not crying about $660,000 when
I think you should, and this is
$7 million.
But I think you should, Jeff. And I think this comes to my point in terms of where this club goes next. The DPs are one thing, and yes, that is obviously going to be the sort of the big shiny that we're all going to look at in the offseason. I think a lot of the work, the important work for TFC, is going to be building that base, right? Building, as I always say, the cart, right? The horses, okay, you got to get rid of the horses, but I think there's value. I think you can get the horses out the door. I think fixing the cart and essentially not even fixing it, burning the cart down and getting new wood and new materials and building that cart again is going to be the most important job for Toronto FC, and not just building, but building it right, finding those pieces. It might mean that next season you still suck, right? That might be the reality of how this rebuild goes. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm going to be blunt because I don't think it doesn't matter who, if it's an Adama Diomande or a Ben Spencer or a Terrence Boyd, or it doesn't matter if it's a pylon in a hat at the number 9 position or in the number 9 core next season. This culture doesn't get fixed with those two guys in the locker room. I'm adamant about this. So it doesn't matter. That has to be priority number 1, just so everybody can exhale. I mean,
yeah, I think we're all on the same page about that, Jeff.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone's
on the same page.
You.
What I'm saying though is that as you're doing that work to get those guys out and get them to wherever they want to go, if it's Saudi they want to go, or Qatar, or they want to go back to
Disneyland,
whatever that looks like is whatever that looks like. That's almost going to be like a separate project, really, because that really involves more Bill Manning more than anything. Right, in terms of the type of spend that's been done. And obviously Jason Hernandez will be very heavily involved in those conversations. But this other piece about How do you talked about Michael Bradley and Jonathan Osorio and saying that they look good in moments where they're given the right support. Well, you're going to have to find some players that can provide them the right support and get them in the right positions to be the most effective. I do believe Michael Bradley's coming back next year. I actually have I have a sneaking suspicion that he comes back for
absolutely
one more year. Fair enough. That's my feeling. I could be wrong, but something.
I think he'd rather
he does have a
bathe in
guaranteed
acid than be at
right.
this
He has a
club
guaranteed
any
year
longer.
for next year, right? He can't come back, right? He holds the option to come back.
Yeah,
So,
which is amazing because it's such a power move when he tells them to go shove it up their bums.
Yeah, but I mean, I actually think he comes back for one more year, but maybe he doesn't. But even if he doesn't, right, you still need to put some of these impressive pieces, your Kobe Franklins, your DeAndre Kerrs, your Coelhos, in the right position and put them with pieces around them that can make them continue to grow and get better.
Exactly.
And I think right now you just don't have a team that can do that. You have a lot of pieces that are individually look good, but when you look at them close up and try to put them together, they just don't fit. And that's where the big work, the real leg work, I think will go into the offseason in terms of trying to fix this. And that's the challenge John Herdman and Jason Hernandez in particular are going to have to face, right? It's figuring out what that culture, but not just culture in terms of like, hey, how does everybody feel, but culture in the football. How are you going to play? How are you going to impose yourself when you go onto the pitch into a match? That has to be worked on as much as getting the two DPs out of the door, in my opinion, right? I don't think it's to say like this team in terms of the roster generally that's run out on paper should be able to compete in MLS and should be able to at least get to the 9th spot. We said that at the beginning of the year, right?
Yeah, you're right.
But clearly, again, from the top all the way down to the 30th roster play. I don't even think we have 30 roster players right now, but like down to the 30th roster spot, it just is. It's not working. It is not good, and that's where the work I think is going to have to get to rebuild that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Because I thought, Mike, you thought about it, or you got me thinking about it when you brought up Michael Bradley. Do you think Michael Bradley? I'm thinking of the right way to phrase this, but essentially what I'm trying to ask is, do you think Michael Bradley has fallen out of love with Toronto FC, given what's transpired over these last couple of years?
I think maybe a little bit. I mean, look, I think he's professional enough to know that what happened with his dad probably had to happen, but you can't. Like I said, he's a human being, right? Like he's gonna feel a bit of a way. All right, I don't know if he's gonna take it personally or say, well, just screw it, I'm done with TFC, because he could have done that, right? He could have just been like, you know what, this injury is not recovering the way I want. I'll sit out, right? Like I won't come back this year, you know. But he didn't. Right, he came back and he's playing now. Whether or not you agree that form is good enough to warrant a spot as an automatic starter every single week, okay, I'll leave that up for debate. But you know, do I think that some of that luster in terms of his feeling for Toronto, not for the city, divorce that. I still think he loves the city, but of Toronto FC itself, I think that could have waned a little bit. Like I said. Yeah, he's a human being. His dad got sacked and got treated. I mean, look, as much as we say what we say about Bob Bradley and his time here and how it didn't necessarily work, two players on that roster that get paid a lot more than Michael Bradley do actively try to fire his dad. Right now, whether you say coach and dad.
And
right?
The club chose them.
And the club chose, I mean, in the end, I think there was no other choice to make probably at that time. But how are you not going to feel a little bit of a way about that, right? Like, there's got to be something there. I don't know.
You've seen the passion he plays with on the field. That passion exists in the
that's the thing, right? Is the bridge burnt?
And
I don't think so.
Do you still see that passion? Like lately, do you still see that passion? Or do you think this season has taken a toll?
On the pitch?
Yeah. And like I see it in instances, but I think just all around, and I'm using Michael Bradley as an example because he is the best example when it comes to talking about culture at Toronto FC and talking about all those buzzwords you want to throw in there. But I don't, goals are conceded, kind of just, it happened. Mistakes are made, kind of just happened.
Yep.
And it's not just Michael Bradley, obviously. It's he's the last one to be
It's
pointing a finger
everybody
at when it
else.
comes to accountability, I guess, on the field.
Mhm.
But that's kind of a glaring example and a glaring instance just how much the passion has faded here at Toronto FC. And I think everybody, staff,
Yeah.
media, management, players, fans,
Who wants to raise
everyone
their
can't
hand and
wait
speak
for
for this
this.
team? This team's a disaster. This
Yeah,
team's
and that's what I'm
an
saying.
embarrassment.
Well,
You
and
know,
here's the
Everyone
thing.
can't
not
wait
even a
for the
soccer
season to be
club.
over.
Yeah.
Mike, can I ask you this from a media perspective? And this is something
Mhm.
I'm interested in because, you talk about, those leaders, those people that are supposed to, as you say, Jeff, step up and speak for the club, right? In years gone by, we know who those people were, right? It's going to be Michael, it's going to be Josie, it's going to be somebody like either a Drew Moore or a Beta Shore, a Justin Moore. One of those guys were going to step up and speak and to Mike. Good losses, bad losses. One of those
Mm-hmm.
guys was stepping up. Now, obviously, this is a much younger team, but I feel like you're not seeing those leaders step up as much to the media. Now, that could be a club thing where they're holding people back and not necessarily letting them speak as much. But I just feel, Jeff, give me just 1 second here. I feel like we're not seeing those people. Like, when's the last time anybody in the media really spoke to Lorenzo Insigne, right? Like, that the whole point of him
I
was
think
to
he
come here
spoke
and
maybe once,
once
twice,
this
Once.
year. Yeah, once or twice,
Once
right?
this
all
Like,
year.
he was supposed to be the poster guy, right? That's why
Mm-hmm.
you went out and spent the money to get him.
But that tells
When's
you
the
all
last
you
time
need to
any
know.
He was the poster guy. Did you not
right?
walk
Yeah.
around downtown Toronto? Like,
When was the last
Mhm.
time anybody spoke to Federico Bernardeschi? Now, obviously, maybe that be a club thing, given the last time we spoke to Federico Bernardeschi, it wasn't
I think he
exactly
spoke
Yeah,
once or
pouring and
twice
yeah.
bursting.
since then.
I don't need to
Yeah,
speak to Federico Bernardeschi anymore.
right. But that's what I
I'm
mean,
okay
right?
with
Like
that. Mhm.
in your sort of from a media perspective, how has that sort of shown in terms of culture and maybe a little fall there?
100%. 100%, man. It's been, and this isn't even like a lately thing. It's been since day one, really, where you kind of question exactly who's being brought out to speak to media. And I think that tells you what you need to know about kind of the culture at the club, as you
Yep.
kind of illustrated in
Yep.
your question leading up to it. Lorenzo Insigne, Federico Bernardeschi, guys supposed to be the poster boys, haven't really been made as available as they should have been. Michael Bradley in the past, he used to talk to media every single day. Michael Bradley hasn't talked to media since he came back from
Mm-hmm. A
his
very
injury.
conspicuous absence.
He had, I think, one maybe run-in with John Molinaro and James Gross in the
Yeah, and
post game,
remember that conversation. He said, "I want to talk about the season. I'm
right?
unwilling to discuss anything
He
beyond
wants to
that."
talk about tonight, not even the season.
Yeah. Not even the
Um,
season, tonight. Yeah.
yeah. So listen, I think we don't need to illustrate it anymore. Like I think we've said it over and over and over again. And Bill Manning said it. Like the culture is broken. It's depressing at Toronto FC.
Mm-hmm.
It's mind-numbingly bad. Like how did it get to this
Yep.
point? How bad? I can't believe what I'm watching. Honestly, at a certain point, I really
Yeah.
can't believe what we're sitting here talking
Neither can
about
I.
in September.
Yeah, Jeff.
Um,
Um, you know, Mikey Singh regaled us with a little inside baseball, like 6, 8 months ago when he talked about the 2017 team not necessarily being on the best, we're all renting bungalows together for the weekend kind of thing. But there was a mutual respect. And that's what's missing here. Nobody respects anybody else. Are you going to fault Michael Bradley for not wanting to take the mantle and speak as a leader of a team with two high paid frauds that that ran his dad out of town? I mean, come on. No one's doing that. Nobody's doing that. There is a power vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. And it needs to be fixed. And the only way to fix it is to cut out the cancer. Uh,
I'll ask.
mm.
When you say cancer, I'm assuming you're meaning the DPs, right? Is that what you mean?
I think the DPs and some of the albatross contracts, but I mean, I can't say it any clearer than I've said it. I don't think this team is fixed with that kind of influence in the locker room. It
Fair.
just can't. It can't. It can't.
I asked the question, we're talking about fixing a culture. The one constant throughout all of this beyond outside of the player realm is Bill Manning, right? Does he deserve the opportunity to fix this
No.
culture? Right?
No.
Like
For the same reason as I've been so adamant about the DPs, there's too much bad blood, too much bad history, for better or worse. It doesn't even matter if it's a lateral move or if we're getting somebody with a better resume, et cetera, et cetera. There's just too much smoke. Someone needs to turn down the temperature, and it can't be the guy who's responsible for half of the smoke. At a certain point, you just need fresh blood. And I think we're well past that point here.
Like, okay. October 1st is supposed to be this new era, I guess, in Toronto FC. So we are, we're asking where do we go from here? The answer is John Herdman, right? John Herdman is where Toronto FC are literally going from here.
Mm-hmm.
Should Bill Manning have been around to appoint John Herdman? I don't know. It's tough to make a case for him to stick around, right? So, okay, whatever. He brings in John Herdman. I think, at least me personally, I think it's a good hire for Toronto FC, considering the circumstances they were in and, some of the stuff behind the scenes about their budget and who they were realistically going to go after. So for John Herdman to fall to them in a way because of what transpired at Canada Soccer, I think it's a good hire. John Herdman has a track record, albeit in a really different capacity, of building up culture at places that had fractured cultures. So that is a good starting point for Toronto FC as a head coach. But for anyone that's thinking that this team is going to all of a sudden click and turn around in 2024, I just can't see it. So going back to kind of what you were saying, Mike, about buying out Diamande, I'm thinking about this from a business perspective. Why would MLSC, the board, pay $600,000 for someone or $700,000 for someone not to play for them in a season where it's a rebuild? I think they're just gonna eat that contract because it's a losing season anyways, in my opinion. I can't see them being good in 2024. So I think there's a laundry list of problems that John Herdman's gonna have to sort out here.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I agree.
Well,
I honestly can't see that far ahead beyond like what Mike was saying. Like, let John Herdman come in. We've given him the keys to the car. This is something he's proven to be elite at. Let him bring the axe down based on, I think I speak for, at least in my opinion, I trust his perspective enough that I'll agree with his initial moves, but I want to see them made. And then from there, we can start to speculate. But to me, I 100% agree. It's all John Herdman's.
Yeah, and this actually rolls really nicely into the burning question. So let's just roll into it, guys, and the burning question presented by NextDoor. NextDoor is the official community app of Toronto FC. It's also where you connect with the people and local businesses in your neighborhood. Download NextDoor to find soccer fans in your neighborhood, like on the Toronto FC fan community group. We've been posting there, interacting with people all season. Thank you so much for those who have now joined and are interacting with our posts. It's really great to see you. So download NextDoor at the App Store or on nextdoor.ca. And the question was this week, what is John Herdman's biggest priority when he takes over as manager October 1st? And a few of you chimed in. So Heather on the NextDoor community group just saying, trying to motivate this team to want to win. And Heather, I don't disagree with you there, right? Like we've talked about it a lot, that pride factor. John Herdman is someone who was able to, as you said before we cut into the burning question there, Jeff, has a track record of doing that at national level, right? Can he do it at club level? That will be interesting. Moving to Twitter, Paul says, restore some heart within the team. It's definitely missing now, just sort of re-echoing Heather's point. And then Drifty Wolf just saying his biggest priority should be figuring out who wants to stay and who actually wants to be part of the project going forward, and only who is here for a paycheck. So I think a lot of the comments really are centering around that sort of pride factor, who really wants to fight for
culture,
the
all the buzzwords that we bandied around. Richard Martin's coming in off the top rope with a good one. I would love to see John Herdman come in like a badass on October the 1st and immediately remove Insigne and Bernia for the rest of the season. Do we think he's going to do something like that?
No.
I think pretty stunning statement of intent from Herdman there. If they're already on the chopping block, I mean, there is some street cred to be granted from sacrificial lambs.
I get that, but I still think John Herdman's going to want to, maybe there's a world where one of them stays, right? Maybe there's a world where John Herdman's able to rebuild the culture enough to the point where you get one bad egg to buy into that culture. Because honestly, we've seen glimpses of both Insigne and Bernadeschi when they look like they're bought in and look like things are going well. When TFC is winning in the rare 3-4 games that they've won this season, oh my God, I would love those versions of Bernadeschi and Insigne smiling, joking around.
Every game.
Yeah, exactly.
Marauding Tata after we lose 4-0 to say hello, blocking.
Well, there's that if you can avoid that part of it, right? So if you can
I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I don't think there is a way.
Sure. But that's what John Herdman's job is to assess, right? I know your opinion on that, Jeff, but that's what John Herdman's coming in to assess.
100%.
Can one of them stay? I think we're all in agreement that there's no way two of them will stay, but who knows? Crazier things have happened.
And it's MLS. We've got to be realistic. I want the board to light $23 million on fire.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's the big thing, right? Like you play them because in the case that you can't get both to go, or it's not just feasible, you want to make sure that you still have to kind of keep them happy, right? Like they're still here, right? And they're still under contract. And to a certain extent, you have to keep them somewhat engaged with what the new manager is trying to do. So I think John Herdman, and again, our experience with the national team is he'll try to put an arm around these guys and see if they're open to his ways, right? And open to the message that he's going to try to bring to Toronto FC. And Jeff, you're probably right. They're probably maybe one of them is probably not going to buy in. But, look, when John Herdman took the men's job... This is what
he's good at.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right?
This is national football. You don't get to choose your roster. You're stuck with whoever's a citizen of the country that you inherit. So
no, but that's what I'm saying. Like in 2018, he took a room of guys who did not really vibe together and got them to believe in a one singular mission. Now, obviously, a national team, when you're only together for... a 10, 14-day stretch at a time is a little bit different than day in, day out. You see each other every day at training and you eat together all the time and all that kind of stuff. But, we'll see. It could that could translate to TFC. He knows the club well. Yeah, he knows the club quite well and he knows the area quite well. And I think he knows us as fans quite well. So, we'll see. I mean, that's literally
it's a huge ask, John,
it's literally the buzzword that we have to use now is we'll see.
Yeah,
I'm not convinced John Herdman takes over October 1st. I'm not 100% convinced he actually takes over October 1st, but we'll see.
Is his earpod going to be temp coach for one game?
Honestly, at this point, you might as well roll out the earpod. No, but in all seriousness, not convinced.
Richard, are you kidding? I'm a Benfiquista. Why the hell would I buy Sporting Lisbon seasons? That's never happening. That's never ever happening.
So you think
Richard.
he's sitting
Sorry,
up in
buddy.
the stands, October 1, just sort of in the earbud with the iPod, just, tapping away to Terry down on the touchline?
Terry will pour gasoline on himself and light himself on fire on the pitch if he has to coach one more game as intern coach with this squad, I think. And we'll all have to watch it. Like that monk that did it in Vietnam as a protest. Like, we're all going to have to watch it. I don't want that to happen. Can somebody please put Terry out of his misery? Please. We've probably already damaged the man. He's going to need years of therapy.
Well, he's still on the coaching staff next season.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So.
But that's another thing, right? That when you talk about John Herdman's priorities is he probably has it in place already yet, but making sure you finalize that coaching staff here at TFC. Maybe Dwayne DiRosario will also be part of it. He's a guy that's been still at training, hanging around at training.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Terry Dunfield's going to be part of it. I imagine a few other people from Canada Soccer who left Canada Soccer at the time when John Herdman departed will also be part of it. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see exactly what his staff looks like as well, and if they can, I guess, fix Toronto FC or start to fix Toronto FC and just bring a fresh set of ideas that we haven't seen, quite frankly, for years here at the club.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we will have to see. So Toronto FC play again this Saturday against FC Cincinnati. It's like watching, maybe the listeners are too young to know this movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. It's like we were once the rich guys who end up getting broken by the poor guys, and now we've switched clothes and they look like us. Right, they look all rich and on top of the league. They're 9 points up in the Shield race. Like, they're winning the Shield. So
it's a done deal.
Not quite a done deal, but pretty close, because I don't think St. Louis is going to.
Did you guys see Lucho Acosta's goal?
Yes. Oh, I mean, if TFC are having trouble
Viva
with
La
NYCFC,
Sporting Benfica doo-doo. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm having my little Kevin. What respect for which one? What did I do that you respect, Kevin? It happens so infrequently that I actually want to know. So. Anyway,
well,
maybe
all right. Holler at him on Twitter. You can find Jeffrey P. Nesker. You have our Twitter handles here on the screen. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toronto Till I Die. The TTID community is growing. Tell them how much you like our show by leaving a review or a thumbs up on our show. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a big old thumbs up here. Subscribe. Let people know that we do these shows live at 7 p.m. on Mondays. If you are listening to the podcast version the day later on Apple Podcasts, give us a review. And if you're on Spotify, drop us a few stars. We love to see it, preferably 5. If you're so inclined.
Not 10.
But
not 10,
sign in as someone else and then do the other 5. For Jeffrey P. Nesker and for Michael Singh, I'm Mike Newell. We'll see you next week. Cheers, everybody.
And baby, I'm TFC till I die.